Hello, welcome to the Courageous Self-Care Show. I am your host, Christina Marlette, and on this show, I love to help women go from running on empty to renewable energy. And the way that I love to help women do that is by using courageous self-care. So that is self-care that's beyond bubble baths, chocolate, and wine. I have nothing against any of those things, but those are what we would call external self-care. And the self-care that I find makes the biggest difference is internal self-care. So taking care of beliefs that are holding us back and internal practices and dialogue that aren't serving us. What I would love to do on today's show is a little bit different. So you will notice there is not going to be a guest expert, and you'll also notice I'm in a different home studio if you've been following the show. And the reason I wanted to do this show for you today is because I've identified 10 ways that we tend to drain our energy without knowing it. And then I want to share with you how we can shift those and resolve them so that we feel so much more energized from the inside out. Now, I'm actually going to split this into 2 shows over the next couple of weeks. So on today's show, we will go through 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then next week, we will cover 6 through 10 because there's so much juicy goodness in each one that I don't want to fly through them. I want to spend a little bit of time on each energy drain. And these are ways that I know personally used to drain my energy. I used to be on this perpetual quest to feel more energized and to wake up feeling alive and ready for the day and to have consistent energy that was sustainable throughout the day. And I was doing everything that I could in terms of external self-care, eating really well, drinking lots of water, avoiding any energy creating substances like coffee and caffeine and energy drinks. I didn't do those. And I was sleeping and I just didn't feel like I had the energy that I wanted. And it wasn't until I started addressing the internal ways that I was draining energy that it made a huge difference. And so I wanted to share that with you in hopes that it will make a difference for you too. So I'm going to go through 1 through 5, and then at the end, I'm going to announce the winner of this week's question answered. So on each show, I answer a viewer question that either has been posted on Facebook or in the comments just underneath the show. And the winner gets to attend the next virtual online workshop, the Hawaiian healing dance that I offer each month. So you'll find out towards the end of this show who the lucky winner is this week. Yeah, this week. Okay. So before we get into these 5 ways that you can increase your energy, we're going to assume that your nutrition is the best you can get it, and that you're drinking your water, and that you're moving your body on a regular basis, and that you're getting outside. So all of those external self-care practices we're going to assume are taken care of, and we're going to go deeper into the areas that require courage. So number 1, the first way that you might be wasting your energy without realizing it is your relationship with time. This is a big one. You will notice what your relationship with time is when you start to notice which phrases you use. They might be phrases like, I don't have enough time. I'm too busy. I'm going to kill time. There's not enough hours in the day. And when we start to see all of those ways that we relate with time, what shows up is lack, and lack has a lot of tension around it. And tension, if you even notice in your body holding fists for just a few minutes, that takes a lot of energy without even knowing it. So we have this energetic tension around our relationship with time. So what can we do about it? Well, one thing that we can do is to shift the words that we use. So our relationship with time is purely a belief. And whatever you believe to be true is true for you. So if you believe you don't have enough time, of course you won't. And you'll always be frazzled and frenetic and overscheduled and not have enough time for you. But the great news is that we can choose our beliefs. And so when I realized that I had this deep relationship of lack and tension around time, of course I wanted to shift it. So here are my practices that I have changed so that my belief around time has shifted. Number one, every morning and every night, I say to myself, I experience time with peace, joy, and ease. I no longer wanted to experience time with stress and anxiety and tension. I chose the complete opposite. And so in the morning when I'm first waking up, I affirm to myself, I do experience time with peace, joy, and ease. And same thing at night as I'm drifting off to sleep, I affirm that that is how I experience time. And then anytime during the day that I notice I'm not feeling that way, I remind myself and I can slow down and take a breath. And choose how I feel about time. The other phrase I love to use is that I have perfect timing. And this one I've been using for several years, and trust me, it has made the hugest difference. Whenever I now go into a lineup, I just zip right to the front. And if I look behind me after I'm finished with whatever I'm doing in that lineup or at the counter, often there is a line that's 5, 10, 15, 20 people behind me. And it's because the universe is supporting this belief. I believe it to be true. I know and trust deeply that I have perfect timing, and that's what shows up in my world. I'll give you an example. Recently, I went to Heritage Park, which is a pioneer history type park in Calgary, and I had to go there on a certain day at a certain time, and it was raining. And I knew that, we had to go. It wasn't really a choice. So we packed up our rain gear and we packed our umbrellas, and it was just a downpour the whole drive there. As soon as we pulled into the parking lot, the sky cleared, it stopped raining, like literally as we undid our seatbelts, it stopped raining. And I said, you know what? We actually have perfect timing. I don't think we even need our umbrellas. We'll be fine until we leave. And then, sure enough, not a raindrop fell the whole time we were there. And then when I got back into the car, literally again, as we plugged in our seatbelts, the rain started to fall again. And I just love how the universe has such a great sense of humor and reinforces over and over for me that I do indeed have perfect timing. Now, what if you're running late, you might be asking. So what I have learned about perfect timing is that I trust that when I arrive is the perfect time. So if I arrive early, there was a reason for that. If I arrive just in the nick of time, that's perfect timing too. And if I arrive beyond when I was expected, which of course I don't aim to be late, but I do know and trust that when I arrive, it is the perfect time. So if I notice that I'm starting to feel stressed or anxious as I'm going somewhere and I feel like I might be late, I say to myself over and over a few times, I have perfect timing. I have perfect timing. I have perfect timing. And then what I believe in the greater picture is that even if I do show up beyond when I was expected, which sometimes happens, it's because either the person that I needed to actually see when I got there wasn't there yet, or maybe if I would have left earlier, I would have been in an accident. I just trust that I don't know everything and that I do indeed have perfect time and the universe is looking out for me because it's a benevolent universe. So those are my two phrases around timing that have made a huge difference for me. You can take a breath too and refresh your brain so you're ready to listen to number 2, the second way that we tend to waste our energy without knowing it. This one is pervasive. It is being too hard on ourselves. Oh, I am very familiar with this one. And most women I talk to can really identify. We tend to be so hard on ourselves. We judge ourselves harshly. We use unkind words. If we spoke to our friends the way that we speak to ourselves, we would have no friends. And so what is important first with each of these ways that we drain energy is first just developing an awareness, noticing, oh, is that actually what I say to myself? I didn't realize I was being so mean. And you'll start to hear those recurring thoughts and those patterns. And sometimes they're not even in your voice. They might be a voice from your childhood. And again, these are beliefs, but we get to choose now that we're adults. We have this incredible power. So I used to be extremely hard on myself, and I have learned to lighten up in two different ways. The first one comes from a book I read called The Art of Possibility, and it talks about rule number 7. There is no rule 1, 2, 3, 5, 4, 5, or 6. There's no rule 8, 9, 10, or 11. There's just rule number 7. And rule number 7 is don't be so blank, blank hard on yourself. And it's a reminder to lighten up. So if I notice that I'm being hard on myself, or anyone in my family is being hard on him or herself, we say, remember rule number 7. And usually things are not, almost always, things are not as important as we think they are. We create all sorts of artificial deadlines and priorities for ourselves. But then when we step back and really assess a situation, it's not as big a deal as we think it is. And we might blame ourselves for things that have happened, or just say unkind things to ourselves. So rule number 7, usually things after a few months have passed, or a few weeks, or even a few hours, tend to be a lot funnier than they are in the moment. And life is not meant to be so serious. And trust me, I used to be the most serious person. People didn't know when I was joking. I was really sarcastic, which was just veiled anger. And what I have moved into now is being more lighthearted and not being so serious all of the time. Of course, I still need reminders, but that has made a huge difference. And then another practice that I have that I learned from one of my mentors, Deborah Poneman, is to treat myself and speak to myself like I would a beloved 2 or 3-year-old child, because that little one is still inside each of us. And she or he wants to be treated with love, of course. So if I do something and I notice that I'm talking to myself in a way that doesn't sound very nice or feel very nice when I'm on the receiving end, I shift it and start talking like I would to a beloved child, like, oh, sweetheart, look at you. I know you're trying not to judge people and you're doing it again. And oh, well, I know you're doing your best. And it sounds funny, and it feels funny at first. It feels really phony and weird, but I'm telling you, it makes such a huge difference. So if you can start to talk to yourself like you would a beloved child, that is the perfect antidote to being hard on yourself. And let's take another breath as we refresh our minds and get ready and some oxygen in there for number 3. Okay. The third way that we tend to be really wasting or draining our energy and exhausting ourselves is by suppressing our emotions. So once again, the old version of me used to suppress all emotions that were not the sunny part of the rainbow. So if they weren't happy or polite or optimistic or kind, no one would get to see them, and I would not be able to feel them either. I had no idea that I suppressed so many emotions until I started doing so much personal development work and really delving into who I really am. And I had one mentor in particular who noticed that I had a lot of suppressed anger and took me through a somewhat embarrassing process that maybe I'll share with you another time. It's too long of a story for today. But for the first time, I realized that anger wanted to move through me and not stay stuck in me. And I developed a joke with myself for several years that I was dead inside. And it wasn't a joke. I actually was feeling quite numb and not fully human or whole. And so the thing that is important about emotions is that they are all there to serve us. We don't want to hang out in the emotions that are uncomfortable and unpleasant for very long, but we do definitely need to acknowledge them. And so I've developed a process that has 3 parts that helps us honor our emotions and help them move through. Because if you look at that word emotion, it is mostly motion. Emotions are supposed to be a temporary state like the weather, and they're supposed to move through us. And the best way that we can do that and help them move through us, it has 3 steps. So first one is notice what you are feeling. And it's particularly important to notice when we're feeling emotions that are unpleasant. And this is a simple practice, but it's not as easy to remember when you're in the throes of wild emotion. So, for example, you might say, I am feeling angry. And then part number 2 is locating the corresponding physical sensation of that emotion. So each emotion also resides somewhere in your body. And for me, I notice often that when I am feeling angry, I sense it in my throat as tightness and clenched. Anger might be different for you and show up somewhere else in your body. So the 3 main areas that these emotions show up are throat, chest, and belly. And then as you become more refined and practiced at this magic moment, the feeling and sensing, then you'll notice your emotions start to show up in a whole bunch more places in your body. And it can be really delightful and surprising where they show up. So there's the I feel, there's the I sense, and then there is the I move. And that is bringing movement to the area where we notice the sensation. So in my throat, I might massage it a little bit or stretch it. If you have emotions that seem really overpowering, moving and dancing and putting on music can really help them move through. So that is how, instead of suppressing emotions, we honor them and know that they are a temporary experience. They serve us in some way. We wouldn't have them otherwise. And by locating them in our body and then moving, that is a really helpful way to send them on their way. Okay, so a little bit of a shake. All right, now, the 4th way that we tend to drain our energy without even noticing it is spending too much time in our masculine side. So we have masculine energy and we have feminine energy. They are both extremely valuable and useful, and we're meant to have both of them and experience both of them. Masculine energy, if you think of hunter energy, it's very focused, it's goal-oriented, it's driven, it's powerful and strong. And feminine energy, on the other side, is gatherer energy. So it's nourishing and nurturing and creative and also powerful and strong. So most women in our culture tend to grow up and experience mostly the masculine side. That's just how it's been for a long time. And what's happening now as humanity evolves is that we are seeing the divine feminine wanting to come through, and it is coming through in a much greater way. And we want to honor that and experience it and spend as much time as we can in our feminine side. So that that side has more flow to it, and it has this creative energy, and it's gentle and then at the same time powerful. So we want to find that perfect union between those energies. And we can learn to do that by hanging out more in our feminine side. So what I just talked about, honoring our emotions, that is a wonderful way to access our feminine energy. For a long time, women have been told that we're too emotional, but actually it's one of our greatest strengths. So honoring your emotions is definitely a way to spend time in your feminine energy. And another one is to nurture. So here's an interesting tidbit. Masculine energy, men, when they make a to-do list and they accomplish something on it because they're goal-oriented and really in tune with this masculine energy, they they get a relaxation response from all their hormones as soon as they finish something, which is why they can then go relax. Whereas women, if we make a to-do list and accomplish something on it, or 10 things, or the 75 things we tend to put on it, we don't get that relaxation response. We actually get a stress response, which is why we don't feel that good when we have this to-do list, because then we just add more on. And so how do we get that relaxation response if we don't get it by accomplishing goals? We get it from nurturing. And the hardest way to practice nurturing is to nurture ourselves. So to spend more time in our feminine energy, we want to create and cultivate a practice of giving that nurturing to ourselves first. For me, self-care is a challenge. That's why I teach people about it, because I need to learn it too. And what I've noticed is that my motivation tends to be highest first thing in the morning. So I do my self-care practices and rituals first thing, so that the rest of my day unfolds and I have filled up my own cup first, rather than giving from a place of emptiness. I like to give from the overflow. So this nurturing, making sure that we know that what we love to do, and ensuring that we do some of that a little bit every day. Okay, one more breath. So that is how we get energy from our feminine energy, is nurturing ourselves. And then we can give to everyone else with a cup that's overflowing. The fifth way that we often drain our energy without knowing it is by holding a grudge. And that grudge might be towards ourselves or towards others. And when we hold a grudge or we refuse to forgive, that is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. It does not serve either of us. So forgiveness is an incredibly powerful practice, and it gives us freedom. Forgiveness is a gift we give ourselves and is the cornerstone to spiritual practice, no matter which culture you come from. So what I love to do to practice forgiveness is the Ho'oponopono. And that is an esoteric Hawaiian healing practice that, instead of holding on to this energetic, emotional trauma that's lodged in our body and our energy field, it frees us up because we take full responsibility for everything that shows up in our lives. And then we get this freedom that comes with forgiveness, because we clear out those energetic blocks and the cords that actually attach us to people, places, things, and incidents and that drains our energy. Holding on to those cords energetically takes away so much energy. So I practice the Ho'oponopono. If you want to learn more about that, I do in-depth workshops on it every month. And that's actually what the viewer question prize is a ticket, a complimentary ticket to this Hawaiian healing dance workshop. So that is how we move through holding those grudges, whether they are to ourselves or to others. Now, for this week's question, I'm going to answer that. So our lucky winner this week is Sandra Catania. Hooray, Sandra! Sandra was a guest on the show a few weeks ago. And Sandra's question was a great one. She said, "What is your favorite self-care practice?" Oh my goodness. I have so many practices that I've learned from doing 10 years of intense personal development courses. But I'll share the top two with you that I think are like two sides of a coin. So the first one is investing in myself and investing in my spiritual and personal development. So I take courses, I read books, I belong to programs, I have mentors and coaches, and the money that I spend on myself to be involved in these is money that is the best investment I can make, because all of these different investments have made me who I am today, and I am so much happier and fulfilled and satisfied than who I used to be. And then on the other side of that coin, so I do practice all of this personal development. The other side is that I take action. So I receive the information and then I implement it. And that is something that I've seen, sadly, is not always the case. So many people read a book or take a class or a course, or even invest a lot of money and time and effort, and then they don't implement it. And so the action taking is super important. Like if I learn a new meditation practice or I have a coach tell me that this is what I need to do to take the next step, then I do it. And it sounds simple, but of course that's where the courage comes in. And that is how I love to invest in myself even further, is by implementing what I have learned. So that is the answer to Sandra's question. And Sandra, you can contact me so that you can get access to the next Hawaiian healing dance workshop. And if you would also like to access that, you can go to my website, which is courageousselfcare.com. And also on my website, if you have enjoyed these 5 different shifts that we can make, you can also dive deeper. I have an online course that you digest at your own pace, and then each week there's an experiment with the topic so that you can shift your beliefs and practices and ideas around courageous self-care and these ways that we tend to drain energy. Because I want us to all be full of energy and giving our best to ourselves and then to everyone else so that we all benefit. I am so grateful that you took the time to tune in today. And next week, I'll be sharing the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 other ways that we drain our energy. Be sure to tune in for that. Until then, be curious and develop your awareness about what I've discussed today with you, and go out and practice that courageous self-care. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye for now.